All right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Fernando and my good friend Brad. Sunset to South is back after, was it like a 3-week hiatus? I can't remember how many weeks we were gone for,
Been
but
a while. Yeah, it's been a
been,
while.
been a while. Yeah, I was obviously out of the country, out of the hemisphere, out of the, well, still in the Pacific. So I guess that kind of counts. Yeah, just had to get married and did the whole Catholic ceremony thing. And I'm still a little bit jet lagged, not too much, but yeah, man. How was your past couple of weeks been?
It's been pretty good. Just chipping away, like always trying to stay in touch with people and just working it. I had two closings the last couple of weeks and got a couple things in the future that I'm working on. But yeah,
Cool.
just it's been hot and we've we've missed you being gone.
Oh, thanks, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. It's good to be back. I definitely, you know, going on vacation the way I did, it didn't stop. Like everything just kept going. We just had a lot of things to do, which was great. I didn't really get to enjoy the last part. I was quite sick. And here's a hack for everyone that's flying internationally, whether it's be Philippines, Tokyo, Taiwan, Russia, wherever. Bring a senior with you every time. I'll tell you why. So we had like layovers around like an hour and a half to 2 hours, but in some cases we were changing airlines entirely. So when you do that, obviously like your bags don't transfer from one airline to another. You have to grab them from baggage claim and then get back into line to check in and then hit the gates. Well, one of our flights going back home from one island to another, it was a completely different airline because we had domestic route. Well, we had to rush to get our bags, and then we had to take a taxi to the actual other part of the airport. It's kind of messed up that way. It's very common. And then we had to recheck in our 6 luggages along with like 5 other people, all that stuff. Manila airport is like Manila traffic. It is insane. There's hundreds of people. I've never been to an airport that crazy other than I think Dallas, I want to say. But anyway, it's huge. And then just the way that things move, it's a little bit slower, all that stuff. Well, my mother-in-law, who is a senior, she has a bad knee and we requested a wheelchair. Well, if you ever travel with someone has is like wheelchair access, they are first class all the way to the gate. So we got to travel with her, skip the line, skip the security, skipped customs. Well, we got to the front of customs, and what should have taken an hour to get to our gate took about 15 to 20 minutes with time to spare. So that's your international traveling hack. If you have a healthy senior with you, just claim that they got a bad knee or they're winded and it's just hard for them to get back and forth. Put a mask on them to make them look just a little bit, just, I don't know.
Hunch over more, mom. Hunch
Yeah,
over.
yeah, yeah. Bring like a brace with you, like anything. I swear to God, it's better than whatever you got to pay to skip the line and all that stuff. So anyway, that's your life hack for the day,
You can't
friend.
say that you don't learn anything on this podcast that we do. I mean, you get a little bit of everything here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's finance, it's real estate, it's travel tips.
It's travel.
I mean, it's everything. So
I should put like the video of my trip on the Sunset to South YouTube page. I'm going through it, like it's on my GoPro. There's some stuff on my camera. I'll use it for our Sunset to South page just for travel kind of like sites of the Philippines and all that
yeah, I
stuff.
think people would enjoy seeing that.
Yeah, man. I think you would really dig the Philippines, honestly. We have a little bit of that Southern charm and kind of welcoming open arms type of thing. It's a son of a bitch to get there, but everything is like super cheap and the food is pretty amazing. The people there though just really make it. I mean, I'm pretty biased because I am Filipino, but I didn't know this. There's a lot of Koreans that go to the Philippines, you'll see a lot of Korean like characters like on the windows or like the advertisements of like restaurants. And I was speaking to a Korean dude, and he was like, I was like, oh, I see a lot of Koreans here. I'm really confused. Like, why there's so many Koreans? Korea is about a 4.5 hour flight south from the Philippines, and supposedly it's like they're Mexico, like how Americans go to Mexico, they go to the Philippines for vacation. It's probably we stay at like a 4.5 star resort, and I think for the 4 or 5 days, my bill came out to about 1,200 US,
Wow.
and massage. Oh, it's probably cheaper than that. Maybe 1,000 US, maybe even 800. It was pretty cheap. Um, you don't have to stay at a 5 star, but I definitely was like, it would have been like 450 a night, like here in the US. Yeah,
Yeah, like for the money, I mean, that's you'd be crazy. Yeah, you can't stay in. I mean, it's I think just about anywhere you stay, you can count on it being about, I mean, even the lowest end, unless you get like a AAA deal or something, the
yeah,
lowest end, I mean, you're in for like 250 bucks probably anyway. So
right, right. Yeah, it was pretty amazing, man. I kind of it. I had like post vacation slash wedding like blues when I came back, just kind of missing everyone. And like, I mean, it was, I got married at the church that my dad went to when he was like 3, and so it meant a lot to him. And um, we had this kind of thing where I'll get into the show pretty soon, but um, during the day of the wedding, they film you like kind of like with your groomsmen and like with your ring bearer and all these people, and then they film the wedding and they make you do different things. And I was like, the whole time I was like, what the heck are we doing? This is like so weird. And then they interview you like to a message to your wife basically. And around 8 o'clock during the reception, they said, oh, we have a presentation for the bride and groom and for the wedding. And they filmed they they from the filming during the day of the wedding, they made a video for us.
wow, that's cool.
And it looked like The Bachelor. It was really weird. Like it was very high quality like video. It's on my Facebook page, I a personal one, but yeah, it was like Fernando Nicela's like wedding, and they had like drone shots of like the island we were on, the church, all this different stuff. And usually here it's like, oh, you got to wait 3 weeks and then you can watch it with your family and stuff. No, they were like, boom, boom, boom. We're gonna film you all day, and then we're gonna show you this like 5-minute video.
They had an
And
editing team
yeah, just
in the
working on it. Yeah,
wow, that's amazing.
yeah. And I mean, our videographer was like $600, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's like flowers and photography is like one of the most expensive things for a wedding.
yeah, and I think that was our photographer combined with our videographer was like 600 to 800 bucks. And
Wow. Hmm.
they did, like I was like, oh, it'll probably be like okay, but it was a lot better than it is here. I mean, or if not the same, the
Right.
quality was like pretty amazing. So, yeah, but it was really good to see everybody. And but I'm glad to be back. I know people always say that, but I really am glad to be back. I'm glad to be able to go to a Mexican restaurant or like uh or like a normal KFC, or like just like I really wanted a chicken fried steak, and so I got that yesterday. You can't get that in the Philippines. Um so it's good to be back in the good old US of A, to be, just back and ready to go for another episode of Sunset to South. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting too when you travel internationally, even the chain even the chain restaurants are a little bit different.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I ate at a McDonald's in Suriname, South America,
Oh, cool.
and and they had crinkle cut fries.
Huh.
Like it wasn't, McDonald's is kind of known for their fries. A lot of people like their fries.
Yeah.
And they had crinkle cut fries, which was just bizarre.
Yeah. We went to a McDonald's and they had spaghetti, pizza, KFC, like Filipinos love gravy. So like gravy served with everything. So if you want a heart attack, go to the Philippines. Fried chicken, gravy with rice. And then my wife got a Big Mac, and she eats it. It's pretty good size. And I go, so is it taste any different? And she's like, tastes exactly the same. I was like, oh, I was kind of hoping like it'd be like, different or
Should
like,
have
I
had some
don't know.
gravy on it. Should have put a little gravy on it or
We
something.
probably should have put more, a little bit of gravy on it, and then it would be a little different. So anyway,
That's cool.
yeah.
I'll have to
And
check that video out. I'm going to go to your Facebook page
yeah,
and check it out.
I'll send you the link. But yeah, it's I've watched it like 8 times. I'm not that type of person. I was just so amazed at the quality of work they did. And I suppose he had 16,000 views. I don't know how they did that, but yeah, it's pretty cool. So
You have to put that on Sunset to South too, man.
yeah,
We'll get a lot more viewers.
yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, good. Congratulations, and
Thanks, man.
it's good to have you. It's good to have you back, and you got back and you got right to it, man. You did your Sunday show, our show, and then you got a show tomorrow night. So
yes, we have OTR tomorrow. We're going to be down a couple people, but no, it'll be good to get that going again, to get people kind of excited about different collectibles. And yeah, the Sunday show was I'll admit I didn't really know what to talk about because I was like, my reception wasn't very good, but Void Rivals seemed to be kind of the hit of SDCC, so that was kind of cool to talk about. And like real quick before getting into the slides, kind of some market news on my end. It was a good thing I left at the time I did. I don't know if you saw this, but mortgage rates were at a 30-year or like a 100-year high last week because the 10-year hit like 4.15 or some crazy stuff. I heard it was a great time to go on vacation if you're a mortgage lender because nobody was calling.
thank God my people had just, the couple of people they had already locked and they closed the week prior.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that stuff's scary, but hopefully I don't know. A lot of the things I see, a lot of the information I see, they're saying like we're kind of climbing out of the woods a bit. It feels like. So we'll see.
And yeah, and kind of like what I was seeing just from my experience of being like in the investment world and all that is I thought it was kind of a healthy rise in the 10-year. And the reason I say that is because it seems like a lot of equities are just frothy. Apple, is trading at a PE of like around 25. I mean, they're not a growth company. They're a Dow component. And what was another one I saw? Amazon, the numbers are great, but it's just kind of crazy that the stock prices are rising so much, and it's making it unaffordable to invest in equities right now for majority of some stocks. I didn't highlight a ton of stocks. I just wanted to take some from different kind of segments or whatever and kind of go from there. But has home prices have you seen any change at all from like demand from your clients and all that, or what?
It has not affected home values at all.
Yeah. Okay.
And they probably, people who are looking right now probably were shielded from that bump last week because they're probably not at a point where they're, if you were looking last week, you weren't locking, you weren't rate locking, or it might even be worth it to push it out and kind of wait to see what's happening. But yeah, we're still seeing if a house, something I've said all along, you got to get the price right in the beginning. People want to push it and say, well, I can always go down. Yeah, you can, but you could keep going down because, I tell folks all the time, look, I can, if I see a home if I'm working with a buyer and I see a home has been reduced, I know you're not at your bottom number yet. So there's at least one more drop in there. And one of the guys that I just closed with, he's as happy as he could be because they had lowered it 15,000. So we went in at their lowered asking price and got 5,000 in closing costs and a home warranty. And then when inspections were done, yeah. So because it had dropped, and there weren't any other, contenders out there. There wasn't anybody. We were not in a multiple offer situation. Obviously, they were just trying to get a contract.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we did inspections, and it needed a new roof, so we got
Oh,
them to pay
geez.
for a new roof. I told him, I don't, that stuff doesn't scare me. If the
Yeah.
seller's willing to fix something, then that doesn't scare me off. Let's get a new roof for you. So we went and got that too. So there's opportunities. If we aren't even in the slides yet, but we're dropping some info here. There's opportunity if you're a buyer. There's opportunity out there, and it's not because the market's in the is tanking. It's because you just have to have really good communication with your lender and your agent. And I just saw your comment there. There's really good if you have really good communication with your lender and your agent, and you're on the same page with
Mm-hmm.
everything, then you can there's opportunities out there, and maybe you target like, hey, this one's been has been reduced $10,000. Let's see if we can get you some closing costs.
Right.
um
Yeah. I haven't run into that. Of course, I haven't done a purchase in a long time, but oddly enough, I had a client call in today. We closed on his house in, gosh, April, end of April, early May. And now this is Redfin, so take it with a grain of salt, but he inquired because he put 10% down, and he inquired about removing mortgage insurance. Now, May was like literally 4 months ago, 4 or 5 months ago. So kind of parlaying on my question from earlier, it does look like that. It looks like home prices are here to stay for now. Um, I was watching something on Bloomberg World because Bloomberg's was available while I was in the Philippines. That there was fear that the 10-year would hit 4.5%, and if that happens, that's going to be really tough on my end, at least, to do homes, especially here in Washington, because from what I can see, home values just are not ticking down to where it's affordable. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's fine. But we're kind of back at 7 to 7.25 like rate range. I guess on my end, I'll just kind of reiterate, if you're in the market to buy a home or just curious, just apply and just see, and then just keep your application open until, there's so many times where I'll talk with someone, and then 6 months later they're either ready or rates have changed, and I'll hit them up and I'll be like, hey, are you still looking for a home? Just want to keep up on you, all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, I'll just reiterate it again, because also your mortgage lender is going to go to work for you right now because we're not that busy. There's a lot of competition. During the pandemic, a lot of loan officers or mortgage lenders were, hired because of the influx of demand. But now there's not as many, and the ones that do are probably a little more experienced now, and they're here to work for you. So let them work and make them work for you.
well, and here's if you use the scenario that I just shared where there was a price reduction and we went in and got closing costs, what if you use some of your closing costs to buy your rate down to
Right.
make it a little, so there, have what's up, Captain Obvious? Thanks for popping in, buddy. We appreciate it. Good rapport with your lender and a good rapport with your agent, and we can find you those opportunities out there. You if a buying the rate down isn't a smart move, we'll tell you it's not a smart move, but it's worth looking at. It's worth seeing if it's an option.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, don't assume anything. Don't read the headlines and just assume that that there's no no options out there. There's plenty of things we can do. So
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get into this. I don't. Again, I wanted to keep this heavier on Brad's side than mine this week, just because I was generally just curious of what he's seen, and I couldn't find a lot to talk about. So this week we're gonna talk about S&P 500 being a little frothy. I'm going to look at certain equities that are expensive. I always get this question of like, oh gosh, that stock's only like $2 a share. I should buy like 100 shares. Well, if you buy 100 shares of a company that isn't making money, you're basically throwing your money into a fire. On the other end, there's stocks that are $400 a share, but to me they're cheap because they make $100 a share or something like that. And so I'm looking at price to earnings ratios. That's kind of a barometer to tell whether or not a stock is expensive or not. And then we'll look at those overvalued stocks. My tip of the day, it's not a credit tip per se. And then Brad's going to take over the last segment as always. So before I kind of get into these, the S&P 500's at what? Let's take a look here real quick.
And I did not look at I did not look at your slides because I wanted to be surprised, just like everybody in the chat. If you're in the chat, thank you for swinging by. And if you're watching on the rewind, we appreciate you so much. We're back on Wednesdays. We got Ferd back, so yeah, map out some time for us on Wednesdays, and yeah, we appreciate you guys showing up for us.
Yeah, again, and kind of reiterate Brad's sentiments. Again, thanks for everyone supporting, all that good stuff. I think I have some family members in the chat that are kind of shy, so say something, anything, say anything. So this is the S&P 500. This is an index of the 500 fastest growing companies in the US. So basically what this represents is the US top 500 companies and kind of a barometer of how the economy is doing. Now, during the pandemic, the S&P was at almost 4,778. It was super frothy back then. Rates were around 3.5% to 4% back then, maybe even the low threes. What's crazy is we're now at only 300 points or so off all-time highs, and rates are at 7 to 7.5. Employment's really good. It sounds like growth's really good. It sounds like companies are actually making money. I don't know if you're working for UPS, but they're paying $170 grand a year to people wanting to drive for UPS. So I may rethink my career.
You might have to
pretty soon, right? So whether that be forced or not. So hey, what's up, Brian?
What's up, buddy? That's one of my clients there, actually.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. That's really cool.
Relocating from New York.
Nice. Yes. I love it. So this is just crazy to me that we're at a record of 4,467 with rates almost double from all-time highs. My finance classes would say this is a bubble waiting to burst. And my inner Fernando also says the same thing. I don't know where the money's coming from to push this past 4,700. The third quarter earnings reports are really going to be a tall tale sign to see whether inflation numbers have come down enough to put more confidence in the consumer, or if it's going to start falling. And this is a house of cards type of equities market. Obviously, Brad, you're red hot as far as real estate is concerned. I'm not lacking buyers wanting to buy a home. I'm just lacking inventory where I live. But man, does this freak you out? Would you feel more comfortable if it was at a lower kind of index amount, or do you have confidence in it? We're going to hit 5,000. What do you think?
I haven't been confident since we started this podcast. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, I think it's, honestly, it's one of the reasons we did it, because there was so much misinformation out there, and not to, things are, it's very volatile. Things are kind of all over the place. It is, it can be a little scary. I don't know. I don't really know what to think about it. Um, yeah, but it is, you do wonder, like, all right, what, I don't know if it's like if the main things that people buy are not overly expensive yet, or I mean, there's certain things that I see in the grocery store that I'll say, oh, I'm not going to pay that for that, but it's not an essential. But
Right.
when eggs were like $6 a dozen or whatever
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
I was wondering what was going on, but now you can get a dozen eggs for less than $2. So
Yeah, it's kinda come down a little bit,
yeah,
and, you know, inflation really hasn't hit the Philippines. I was over, in Southeast Asia, and, it's still like, I was in a pretty small part of the country, where my dad's from, and so we're kinda hit with that, but kinda in the cities, it was still, like, fairly inexpensive. There were some areas where we kinda vacationed where I was like, "Wow, that's around 16 bucks for a meal. That doesn't seem right, in my eyes." However, we were at a 4.5 star, resort too, so they're kind of getting you there. Um, I I think the only thing that's really keeping the market up is inflation data deterring acceptance of higher rates. So whenever a Fed, and I don't know if anyone knows. So the Federal Reserve is the basically in charge of the money supply. So whenever a Fed president or a Fed representative says, "I don't think we're going to have increases in interest rates through 2023," the stock market shoots up, because not because money is going to be cheaper, but I think it's more like it's not going to be more expensive. And so these are where I've done all the cuts in my company. I've laid off all the people. Now let's get back to work. That's the only thing that I can think of that's pushing the market or could push the market to 5,000. However, I mean, rates are still really high. I mean, 7% for a mortgage, HELOCs are at 8.25, primes at 8.25. It's, I don't, unless we see like, I think people are like, I think nowadays people have multiple jobs too. So that probably helps sustain kind of like that status quo that people have been used to. But yeah, I mean, it's still quite crazy that the S&P is where it's at. Just my humble opinion. So
as you do your segment also, I've what's up, man? Thank you so much for being here. I've noticed so much of the response. It's not a direct response to the market always. It's sometimes it is. So when they didn't raise rates, there was still some nervousness in the reaction because, oh, but they might the next time, and it's like, so much of it is based on perception and speculating what they're going to do. It's just been really fascinating for me to not being in that realm to see your segment and kind of see that stuff happening. I mean, I've started following stocks because you go through them, and
oh,
so
cool.
it's really it's really intriguing to me because it's something I'm not all that familiar with. And I think for most people, and why a lot of people like your updates and that kind of stuff, um, because a lot of people just turn their money over to somebody and let them handle it. And we really do need to be more educated than that. I mean, you
Mhm.
don't, maybe you're not hands on, but at least know where your money's going.
Yeah.
Know, know, just educate yourself a little more. So this is, I've really been intrigued by it.
Cool. Cool. Well, without further ado, let's get back into it. Just kind of wanted to share that. Um, Kind of an overall kind of like thing to think about when it comes to stocks. And I could be totally wrong and we could hit 5,000. If I was a betting man though, I just don't see anything pushing it past like 5,000 right now, just because the rates are so high and there's less money to be invested. So I'm looking at three different companies. A couple are I probably talked about these companies before, but they just stood out to me because of the price to earnings ratios of these companies. And so Palantir, I don't know if you guys know what Palantir is, but they are, I could almost say they're an AI company. They're kind of leaning towards that space, but essentially they take data and they organize it for the government is kind of how it's kind of pitched. They were a really big company during the pandemic. It was a, I guess, quote unquote meme stock, but the stocks, around, I want to say, let's see here. And this is it's a fairly new company. I mean, it did go public during the pandemic, so that's how new it is. But the technology of this company is pretty insane. And like I said, the founder is one of those just like, I feel like he's going to be like on the cover of a magazine in the next like year or two for being like innovative and smart and kind of launching maybe one of the heads of AI in the next couple of years. But this trades around $15 a share. It hit as low as $4 a share. And the price to earnings ratio is negative 131. So to kind of give you an idea of what that means is it's not making any money. And the price is it's essentially it's burning money, right? That's acceptable on a startup type of company, but minus 131 is pretty significant in my opinion. Uh yeah, Michael, that was a snafu on my part. I must still be a little jet lagged. I apologize. But I like the company as a whole. I like the founder. When I buy stocks or when I buy companies, it's either one thing. One, the founder is just kind of one of those nut jobs in a good way that just doesn't listen to the sound around him and just works or her. The other reason is I really like the product the company sells and how they sell it. Like Apple is like one of my favorite companies ever, and so I always like having the stock in my portfolio. Palantir is one of those companies where I don't really know what the company actually does. However, the CEO is a genius, and I really admire his conference calls. However, 130 negative 131 is pretty frothy. I wouldn't recommend buying the stock right now. Maybe I'm still accepting of a negative price to earnings ratio if the earnings of this company or if the losses in the company tend to go higher. Their biggest client is the United States government. And during the pandemic, they were just signing contracts left and right. 26 million here, 48 million here, 120 million here and there. And it was like they had work essentially. But yeah, just when you're a negative 131 for like a novice investor or like a brand new investor, even though it's $15 a share, I might wait till it's like $8 a share, or I may wait until it gets into that maybe negative 75 to 50 kind of range as far as price earnings ratio.
When was
Oh,
that $4? How long ago was that?
that was fairly recently ago. Let's take a look. This was trading around $4 a share. January, December of last year. Yeah. So if you were watching this company, you could have gone in at like $4 or $5 a share if you really had faith in the actual CEO, like I did. I don't have this stock anymore. I bought it at like 11 and sold it at like 24 during the pandemic. I thought it was a little frothy back then, but this company is something to watch for. If you're in that technology space and kind of curious about AI, I definitely would take a look at this company for sure. Yeah. Anyway, so my next stock is more representative of a stock that I think has just gone up way too fast. Um, Nvidia, you know Nvidia, right? Right, Brad?
Yeah.
Okay. I've talked about this stock like so many times, and I really love the company. The CEO is a complete genius slash a-hole, I've heard. But that's usually like a good company when it comes to that kind of combination, unfortunately. Um, no, but he's really a genius. This Nvidia has the AI slash gold standard when it comes to semiconductor chips. That just no one, they're like 5 years ahead of everybody else. And that's how the company operates. And when you're in the chip sector, it's kind of like drug sector, right? So like when you get a miracle pill approved, you only have like so many years to sell it and be the sole one. And then it becomes, like your patent is like, everyone else can make that miracle pill, right? Well, it's kind of the same thing with semiconductors. Like once your chip goes on the market, uh, a competitor will say, "Oh, I can make that same chip for half the price," or some outfit in China will take that chip, they'll tear it apart, and then 8 months they'll have their own chip. Well, the thing with Nvidia, the fact that they're 5 years ahead of in their pipeline, they can put out a chip today, and then they can just wait to put out the next chip after that chip is kind of like done with. And so with the onset of all these companies looking at AI and looking into Bitcoin is, or, any type of coin, and just in general, like you have to have a fast processor to game. My fiance, my wife's nephew, he is a big gamer and he's a computer science major at University of Washington, or will be this year. And I asked him, what's the best chip to have? He's like, oh, Nvidia, 100%. I was like, dude, you should buy stock in Nvidia. This is like 6 months ago. And he's like, oh, it's too expensive, blah, blah, blah. And too bad he didn't. It went up quite a bit. I think this is a matter of going back to the stock price. I think this is a fact of, man, there's not that many other semiconductor chips to invest in, but I'm a hedge fund manager, I'm a money manager. Nvidia is the best one. I don't care what it's trading at because I had nothing else to invest in. So I feel like that's pushed up the price, but 231 price to earnings ratio. So that's basically assuming that the stock price is trading at 231 times the earnings it's making. That is extreme growth. And it's a pretty pricey stock right now. Let's see. It's at
Yeah, Michael, he recovered quickly, didn't he?
I did. Yeah, good call, Mike. Good call, Mikey. This stock was at 142 in December, and now it's at 424. Here, I'll share this
Wow.
tab. So, I mean, you're looking at this graph here, and this is pretty representative of a lot of stocks lately. This was the earnings right here, and so it had a pretty big bump. But, I mean, expectations are at an all-time high, in my opinion. So, if they have one bad earnings report, this stock could drop 75 points or even 100. It's since hit the $1 trillion market cap, which is pretty insane for a semiconductor company. And I say that because they don't really have anything else to sell. So if companies like start saying, oh shoot, rates are like super high, I can't afford to buy Nvidia chips, I'm good with my growth now. Nvidia has nothing else to really sell at this point. They don't have a second like item like Apple does. Like Apple, oh, we can't sell iPhones, we'll sell services, that type of thing. So it's another thing to kind of be on lookout for. If you like the stock, follow it, but I wouldn't buy it at 424 when the price earnings ratio is 231. That's just too frothy for me. So anyway,
sounds like they probably need to acquire another company.
Yeah, I don't know if it's in the culture to do that, but yeah, I mean, like it's the thing with. So here's another thing about like acquisitions and people talking about like acquiring a different company or merging. You have to take on debt or issue stock to purchase a company, right? So we're not seeing a lot of M&A right now, just because of the cost of money to acquire another company. Like if Nvidia was like, I need 50 billion and I'll issue bonds, they're gonna have to pay like junk bond prices to do that, right? So, but yeah, I mean, if Nvidia is okay with just kind of being where they're at, they're probably not gonna look to acquire. They'll probably just do like R&D research to the max, right? They have a lot of cash. This company has a lot of cash.
So I mean, the only reason to jump into that sector is because you can do it cheaper. You can't beat them. All you can do is do it for cheaper, and they're already on to the next thing by the time you reverse engineer what they're doing. They're already on to the next thing. So you put it out and you might could gain a little bit, but I would have to. I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about dealing with them as a company or the culture of the company, but I would have to think that the quality and perhaps even customer service might be an upside to Nvidia versus a competitor.
Right. And the crazy thing is like they're worldwide, and a lot of the big ups in that company are of Asian descent. So I don't know if that has a cultural advantage on selling their product like overseas, but I gotta imagine the fact that their big ups like speak the dialect, and they, like you can kind of relate to like growing countries like China, for example, or Japan. I'm sure that has a leg up over uh an Intel, or an Apple that's trying to sell their chip to different companies too. So, and it's just the gold standard. I mean, they're the top company when it comes to that product. So,
Right.
um, anyway, Carvana is another stock that didn't have a huge PE ratio, but it was still negative. It was like negative 2.3. Now, the one thing Carvana has going for it is I did read another article the other day. So, cars right now are the most, like, what was it? The most overpriced it's ever been in the history of like cars. It's like cars right now in general are overpriced by like 36% due to supply and demand issues. Um, that's good for Carvana because it's going to keep, people are going to go to Carvana and try and buy a car on the cheap and have it shipped from Delaware or where the heck it's from, that kind of thing. Um, the positive news about Carvana is they had a lot of debt from growing so high. Management has done a phenomenal job renegotiating that debt. I didn't look into the details of it, but the fact that they renegotiate debt and announced at their earnings report was a great move by management. It shows that they're cognizant of interest rates, and it also shows that a big concern for investors probably was debt, and the fact that they have it kind of under control. The shares popped pretty high. That's probably another reason why I wouldn't buy it right now. I feel that people probably aren't buying cars like they used to, and the fact that they're 37% like markup, like than where they should be, it's probably going to deter people more about buying a car. Like what I think we talked about this before, but what's your car situation right now? Are you looking to upgrade anytime soon, or
I
you like
just
me?
got a notification from the dealership I purchased my car from that it was my 2-year anniversary last week.
Oh wow.
So
Okay, you're good.
I bought a 2015 Toyota Highlander,
Oh
as
sweet.
I affectionately call it, the soccer mom car.
Yeah.
And
It's a great car, man.
I
I
love
like
it,
the
man. It
Highlanders,
drives
man.
great.
Yeah.
It's I intentionally 2 years ago I intentionally bought a car that I knew would last a long time, and it's
Yeah.
not. Trust me, as you know, a lot of the folks who are in the chat have enjoy other hobbies that we both enjoy as well. There's things I like to spend my money on, but a car is not one of them. I'm not going to go price a brand new truck right now. I mean, it is insane. Like a nice high end truck. It's crazy right now to go to look. And I had a buddy at work who was talking about, and I mean it's like, I mean you're talking like 80 grand, for 80 to 100 grand for a truck.
Yeah. It's
Um
insane.
it's just nuts. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm the type that I want to get something reliable and I want to hang on to it. Yes, it
That's
was
awesome.
Michael Baker. It absolutely was.
Highlander was one of those movies I used to watch. Like, I always catch the middle of it, and I'd be like, I don't know what's going on in this movie. I'm like, I was like 12, 13 years old, but I'll finish it. And I always liked it, but I've never seen Highlander is one of those movies I've never seen all the way through, just because it was always on TV. But anyway,
You
so
should, man. There can be only one.
they're going. Yeah, I remember that. That was for sure. And then one of the villains was really scary looking. I just
Um,
remember that.
yeah, he had safety pins holding his head on because he
That's
almost.
right. That guy, dude,
Yeah.
he was so
Oh
scary.
man, that dude. Yeah, he was a good bad guy.
I love it.
Yeah.
And yeah, those are the only 3 stocks I had today. Sorry I didn't have more, everyone in the chat, but just kind of general sense right now. I wouldn't recommend like slowing down your 401k, deposits or anything like that. But if you are looking at individual stocks, it might just be time to maybe press on the brakes a little bit and kind of reassess your portfolio. I always like to look at it every 3 months and really like dive into it and look at like, okay, here's why I got into this stock. Is this still happening? No, I'm going to probably sell it if I got in green. Or, this stock's down a little bit. Is my theory still there? And is it working? Cool. I'm going to buy more shares in that. Jim Cramer always says there's always a bull market somewhere. And I actually do believe him in that, whether that be a bull market, betting on the market going down or up. Just be cognizant of what to look for. And if you have questions, you can ask me, you can ask Brad. We'll try and answer those questions for you as best as possible. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that little presentation today.
Yeah, and follow some of the ones that Ferd talks about. I've really enjoyed I've really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, and if you guys have like stocks you want me to look at or like sectors, like DM the Sunset to South Instagram, and I'll definitely look into it because I'm always up for ideas. I may not know a lot. Like one sector I just do not look into is like pharmaceuticals. It's like science, and I just don't understand it. So I may not be able to do that, but everything else I'm pretty confident in looking into. So
I'm going to request that you do. I dig that AI stuff, man. I told you we were commenting, we were chatting on Instagram about it, and some of the ones that I saw, I was just like, man, this is really intriguing because those systems that are in place, they have to be tested. So there's companies that just test the systems that are involved there. And I don't know, it's just really intriguing. There's a couple of them I'm following now. We'll talk about it. I'll send you some of the ones I was looking at.
Okay, man. Sounds good. Yeah, I'm up for it. I can do that next week. Let's do it.
Palantir was one of the ones I'm following too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. See, you're on it, man. You may need to own the AI sector and just kind of like I used to be part of an investment club in college, and we would hone on like different sectors and just own it. And then we'd come together like every 2 weeks and like just talk about our different stocks. It only lasted like 3 months. We were a bunch of dumb college kids, but it was pretty cool. Owning like a sector of like, and I guess it's kind of like OTR, like we kind of own our segments there. But yeah, it'd be kind of cool if I'll definitely look into that and ask you. I may have to ask you some questions as well. So cool. Cool. It's on for next week, man. So I asked you earlier if you'd seen some dips in the real estate market in South Carolina. And the reason I asked that was because I've seen a little bit of a dip in Seattle. Not a lot, but condos have actually dipped like 10 to 20K in some areas. Now, this one is near downtown. Like you could take a bus into downtown. This one isn't in downtown proper, but kind of like a area you can live outside of downtown, but be close enough to. I thought the location was pretty good. 1 bedroom, 2 bath was $500K. The HOAs are like $650 on this unit, but 910 square feet with some pretty close amenities. Like that's pretty good size for, single or maybe like a couple in wanting to live downtown. What you think of this property, man?
I think it looks beautiful. So that's $600 a month.
Yeah, $600 a month. Yeah.
So then you gotta factor that into. So you probably got like a tech person buying this thing, like high roller, because 600. You're adding 600 to your monthly, your monthly expenditures for housing. This is one of my favorite things that we do, comparing the two, because when we first talked about doing this, I don't think we realize how different where our two areas are.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that really accentuates that, or shows that. I think it looks beautiful. I love the layout. The view looks awesome. It's a really cool looking place. And it's, God, man, it's just, and I did mine was slightly over 500,000, but I think it's beautiful. It's really
Yeah.
nice, very modern, very clean.
Yeah, very modern. I think it's a fairly new building. The one thing also that Seattle gets a bad rep for is the homeless population, right? This particular area that it's in doesn't have it's just not downtown, and there's not like a lot of like a grocery store isn't very close. So this is definitely like I want to live downtown. I want that experience. I maybe am single or like I'm very like mid 20s, like early 30s type of like vibe. Um, but you want kind of a quieter kind of like space, but you kind of want to show it off. I thought it was like a show off type of like condo because of the two bathrooms versus like a two bedroom, two bath. I feel like two bedroom condos don't do very well in Seattle, but like a one bedroom, two bath would do a lot better.
That is
Just in my
interesting. That's
yeah,
really interesting.
I
So
didn't
the 2 baths, you've got one for your guests and one is in the bedroom. So you've got a
yeah.
suite.
Yeah, so you walk in and there's like a bathroom it's I I think it was like a 0.75 bath. They said it's 2, but it was like 0.75. So you could have a like it's literally a guest bathroom where they could stay over,
Hmm.
that kind of thing, which I thought was very unique about the unit. And then you have your own master bathroom for yourself, which and the view, yeah, like you said, the view's pretty cool. You have a view of the streetcar that goes into downtown. So
Oh, that's
again,
cool.
like you probably don't need a car having this unit. Um, so, uh, but yeah, yeah, I haven't lived downtown in almost man like a year and a half almost, and I kind of miss it. And seeing a unit like this, like maybe really like kind of miss downtown in a weird way. So anyway, let's take a look at yours. Wow. Okay.
So that's what that blows my mind. And that so this is just under 520,000 in Columbia.
Oh
This
my
is new
gosh.
construction, 5 bedrooms, 4 baths, 3,000 square feet.
Yeah,
Um,
that's pretty cool, man.
very open floor plan, large kitchen with an island. So you would get some of that same feel, I suppose, of that condo, being open floor plan like that.
Mhm.
Um, Community pool and a pool house. A lot of people ride their golf carts around the neighborhood and stuff like that. And I think there's actually multiple. This neighborhood is large enough that there are multiple pools, and their HOA is 629 a year.
Oh, not in a month.
So that's why I asked that. Yeah, that just blows my mind that yeah, it's so different, man. But that's really kind of a cool there again, like a coastal kind of southern feel to it. And around the back, there's a two-car attached garage. You actually it's a rear attached garage there. So yeah, it's pretty neat.
It's a beautiful house, man. I mean, like, I like that color, like that color scheme. We're planning to repaint my this house here, and I like that's exactly the look that we're trying to go for, right there. Very modern. That's beautiful, man. And that's freaking amazing. You get that much for in on the East Coast. That's another a crazy thing too. Now you said Brian is he's moving from New York to South Carolina. I don't blame people that move from up north to South Carolina. Not so much just for like the cost of like living, right? But home's a 2.5 hour plane ride. I'm assuming, or like a 3 hour plane ride. So it's really not that far, from home. Um, gosh, that's just it's like tempting, right?
Yeah.
Like here in Seattle, there's no like if you go south, you're like Northern California. So it's not you're really not gonna save that much money. And it's still, you're still 2.5 hours away. And then like I gotta assume that people are moving from San Francisco because of too much crime in big cities. And plus it's so expensive. I'm assuming they're probably moving to Northern California, like an hour and a half up, if they're able to. It's just we don't really have any options on where to move unless you just move to Southern Washington. You know what I mean? So, that's pretty cool that the opportunities that people have to move down to, and you're still on the East Coast, so those coastal cities, man. We coastal people.
It's the big selling point for Columbia in particular,
Uh-huh.
is you can get Charlotte in an hour and a half. You can get to the mountains in about two hours. Charlotte's, let's just say Charlotte's 2 hours. The mountains are 2 hours away, and you could do a day trip to the beach from Columbia.
That's pretty
If you
cool,
wanted to
man.
go down, hour and a half drive to, Folly Beach, which is in Charleston, South Carolina, which we've talked about. Yeah, you could go down, have dinner on the water, and come back if you wanted to. So it's yeah,
It's pretty cool.
yeah. Well, Ferd, with a 5-bedroom, 4-bath house, you could move your mother-in-law here, and y'all just come on, man.
We can fly around the world.
Hey, as busy as we are, we'll keep you busy with the mortgages. I think you'll see an uptick.
I bet we would, man.
Cost of living.
Yeah, cost of living. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's insane. I mean, the real estate. Thank God we don't have income taxes here. It's been proposed, but I mean, that a lot of people would move out of Washington. I think the only thing that really we have versus like other areas that are, whatever, is that the weather's pretty moderate here. So it doesn't get too humid, doesn't get too cold. I mean, it can get cold, but like today it was raining all day, so it's like, it's August for God's sakes, and it's raining. It doesn't make any sense. It's sunny now, but like, it's just a weird kind of weather here. But, other than that, like if we had personal taxes, I'm out of here. Like, it's not worth it. You know what I mean? It's it's my hometown and stuff and all that. But like, yeah. So that's pretty cool though, man. I mean, that is definitely a difference in real estate, right? So location's everything, I guess. Anyway, so I don't really have any like credit tips. I think I've kind of gone through like kind of things I could think about, but I wanted to. A lot of people are like, I don't have a lot of money to invest and only have $1,000. That's fine. The one thing I think people can take advantage of just to fight inflation or just to have extra savings, because rates like 0.52% right now on, for a regular savings account. Take a look at 9-month CDs. I also got like kind of like pushback, I think, from current clients in my own company of like, oh, is your bank going to fail and all that stuff. You can never predict that type of stuff. So I'll never say yes, but I'll never say like no, right? The bank failures earlier this year were very unique, I guess, in a sense. I think that for now, that kind of wave is over. It could come back in 3 months, just depending on interest rates. But if you're part of a credit union, or if you're part of like any type of bank, look at the 9-month CD deposits and just see how much they are. I looked at one recently, and it's like 5.9%, 6% guaranteed. And FDIC, by the way, insures your deposits up to $250K. Now, I wouldn't say buy a $250,000 CD, but I'd buy like a $2,000 or $3,000 CD for 9 months and just lock in that rate. 5.9% is like the standard you should be doing for stocks. That's really good. You should always try and get like 2 to 4% growth in stocks every year. But I mean, 9% guaranteed, no risk. If you're worried about like your local credit union or like a smaller bank, go to the big boys. Go to a Bank of America. Go to a Chase. Go to Wells Fargo, because God knows those banks aren't going down. At least not right now. They're very well positioned. Are you a big CD person? I'll be honest, I don't do CDs that often because I'm more risk averse. But are you?
No, not really.
Yeah. My aunt swore by them. She swore it wasn't for CDs. She wouldn't be able to retire at 62. Well, it's like,
really?
well, yeah, but everyone retires at 62. So it's like, you know what I mean? This is a long time ago, but I used to tease her about it. But yeah, I just thought that was like, as far as like financial, like kind of hack, quote unquote. Yeah, go shop around for a 9-month CE or even like a 6-month, or just think about it. It's not a bad idea. Lock in that guaranteed return on your investment, and you know, it's the nice thing about CDs is like you have to leave the money in there. So the hardest part about savings is spending it, right? Because you're like, oh, shit's there, But with the CD, if you break the CD, you owe that bank money. So, and 9 months really isn't that long of a time. Um, you know, and if you're worried about stocks, kind of like based on like what we talked about today, then this is a great alternative to not invest in stocks and getting a return on your money. So,
Do it
yeah, think
around the
about it.
first of the year and see what you can save up for Christmas or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great
What was
that's a
that?
great idea.
And what was that Apple deal you talked about in a previous? Was that a savings account or what?
Yeah, so Apple, I think they kind of put it on hiatus because they're kind of having a weird relationship with Goldman Sachs. But you essentially had to have an Apple card, and then uh you would open up a savings account for specific clients or specific customers, and then they would pay you like a pretty exorbitant interest rate. I haven't heard anything about it lately. The other alternative to doing that is the Marcus.com. That's a liquid savings account that I have. Um, it pays around like 4%, and it's not a CD. It's just a regular savings account. Um, from what I've seen on the market, that's the best one to have. There are other ones that are like local credit unions, but I don't live in those areas. And I just feel like, well, I'd rather have my money at like a Goldman Sachs, even though I know they're like looked down upon, but they're money suckers. So I'll do money when it comes to money. You gotta go with the suckers sometimes. I'll I'd rather go with them rather than like a smaller bank that I don't have a relationship with. Personally, that's just me. So anyway, I'm not too high on my horse about corporate America because we're all trying to make money here. So
Right.
that's the name of the game. So all right, Brad, take it away, man.
All right. So, one of the things that I saw,
Oh, cool.
I've seen coming up is, are solar panels a good investment? And I had a run in with a, so I don't know if you guys experience this. Um, we have people go door to door selling solar panels.
Yesterday.
Did you really?
Yeah, that's
What
so
was
funny
their
talking about this.
what was the sales pitch like?
Um, it was a kid, and he was
They're
obviously
very young.
nervous.
Like everyone I've seen is really young.
Yeah, he was super nervous. But I was like, I'll let him pitch me. His sales pitch was he had a good intro. Uh, you know, you may see these trucks going around. I was like, oh, what trucks? I didn't know what he's talking about. And he's like, I work for a company, blah blah blah, and these trucks are doing solar panel installation. I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, and for like a limited time, we're doing like, we can give you a discount of like 30% off. And, I could show you like, utility bills and differences and stuff. And I was like, oh man, I'm good. Like I just got back from the Philippines and yada, yada. And he was like, okay, okay. Well, I didn't mean to bug you. Have a good day. And he walked away. So, he did a good like intro sale to me, but like, I didn't know like what the benefits were. He didn't tell me like any benefits of doing solar other than assumed, like he didn't really give me stats of like how much my electricity bill has gone up or like what benefits that could do. Like he didn't ask me if I had a car, like a electric car, like stuff I would have thought of, like I would want to be curious about. He was so nervous though. I could just kind of tell he just wanted to leave. So anyway,
Just say the first time you said no, he was gone.
he was
So
like, oh, okay, well, I gotta go. Okay.
okay,
Well,
bye.
have a good day. Yeah. Yeah. I felt really bad, so anyway, but
So I had one and I let him go for a while until he told me that they add value to your home.
okay.
And that's one of the things we'll talk about. Like, do they really? And so he kind of got white as a sheet when I told him. I said, "Well, I'm a real estate agent," and he
Oh
kind of
no.
like, and he kind of just like his face went blank, like, "Oh crap! We didn't have this in the script training,
Your
sales
rebuttal,
training
your
course for
rebuttal Rolodex kind of thing, right?
rebuttal for real estate agents." But let's take a look and see. I'll
Okay.
share. some of the pros that that's typical for those guys to share, and then some of the cons, and then kind of my hot take.
Okay. I love it.
All right, so the pros of solar panels. So, well, I say the pros. These are pros slash facts. The average installation cost is around $16,000. That's according to Forbes. Um, Typically, they are leased from the solar company,
Hmm.
and uh, obviously save on your electric bill. There's you supply energy for the, so, there's a bit of a trade off. You supply energy for the electric company, and get a reduced bill. I put add value to the home question mark, because I'll talk about that in another slide. There is a tax incentive, 30% of installation cost, and the government has just extended that, so you can do it for a longer period of time.
Okay.
So those are some of the facts slash pros of doing it. You can go to the next slide there. Um,
Oops. Oh,
yeah,
hold on. Sorry.
that's all right. All right, so the cons is to me the first one's the same. Average installation cost is $16,000. So you typically have to lease that or finance that. 5 to 8 years. So this Forbes had they basically took every state, and from what I could see, 5 to 8 years was about an average time before you can recoup the cost.
Hmm.
Before you really start seeing the benefit. 5 to 8 years. The lease can eat into any savings that you have on your energy bill. So
Hmm.
if you're going to end up paying the same, um, the tax incentive is a deduction only. So if you don't use that whole 30%, you don't get that back. You basically can use as much as you can, but it's not like you get an additional refund. It's not refundable. It's simply a deduction.
Huh. Okay.
So there's no like, oh, I got $2,000 back this year because I had solar panels. They don't do that. One thing I never thought about, and this was interesting in my research:
Wow.
cleaning and maintenance costs. So if you have pollen in your area,
Yeah.
pollen can cover the solar panels and make them
Oh.
less efficient. So there's some cleaning and upkeep costs that can be, 500 to $1,000, to do that. So I didn't even, that never even crossed my mind.
That's crazy.
Um, and then one of the cons that I see: perception of prospective buyers. When a house is for sale, if a house has solar panels, like, oh gosh, you know, and then potential insurance liability. I mean, think about it. You're drilling into your roof, and you're installing these in your, so what happens if you get a roof leak? Does your insurance cover it? Does it not cover it because you have these installed by a third party? So there's some gray area there, and I think it's just new enough that we don't really know all the cons of it. So you can go to the next slide.
Oh, I had a question for you.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. This is awesome, by the way, because I deal with this every once in a while, and I was always confused about the lease part. So, do you lease the solar panels like for the life of the solar panels on your roof? Is that what it
There's
is?
a period of time, and it varies. Um, I was looking for some detailed information, and I couldn't find anything. I even went
Mhm.
to listings that I've looked at with buyers that I knew had solar panels, to
Mhm.
see if they had a copy of the contract. Um, in MLS, you can associate documents that can be downloaded by the agent. So if you have solar panels, it would be a good idea to include at least the stipulations of the lease, so that buyers will know, instead of just being completely shut off by them. Hey, well, they've only got 5 years left on their lease, or, oh, they just bought them 3 years ago and now they're selling, so I've got another 15 years on the lease.
Yeah, because we
It,
run into that as well. on a purchase deal or on a refinance, in fact. And what's happened on the financing side is either one, so when the new buyer steps in, they take over the lease. Well, they still have to be approved by the leasee, the solar panel company. And either one, the buyer just doesn't like do the paperwork, and so it extends the, it's just like a 10 day or whatever. Or they don't qualify because the payment of the lease is like $300 and their DTI is over the percentage. And so when on a lender side, whenever I see solar panels, it's never like a deal breaker, but it's always like, oh shoot, one more thing I gotta worry about when everything else is kind of status quo. But no, this is a, I didn't know realtors like were, or for, at least on your side, it sounds like realtors just like kind of the same way with us. Like, oh damn it, another solar panel debacle kind of
Well,
thing.
I had my office has we've got a private Facebook group for our, like an inner office Facebook group.
Mhm.
And someone asked just last week, does anyone have a good solar panel inspection company? And it's starting to become a thing because people are starting to get solar panels and you want to inspect them to make sure, like, I don't want to adopt a problem. If I'm okay with
Yeah.
buying a house with solar panels, I certainly don't want to adopt a problem. So let's get them inspected, make sure they were installed properly, make sure there's not any, I mean, you're drilling a lot of holes in your roof. That's really scary to me,
Yeah.
to start messing with that. And what happens? What do you do with the solar panels if the roof only has 5 years of life left on it?
Yeah. It's almost like
I
you
mean,
have to replace the whole roof alone and then put the solar panels on.
yeah.
Huh.
So there again, there's a lot of stuff they haven't been around long enough for them to go. The average life, another stat I found, the average life is about 40 years.
40 years? That's it?
Yeah. Yeah, that
Oh,
didn't seem, I was like, is that a long time or not? It didn't feel like a long time. So what
there's
do
a
you do then? What if a panel goes bad? Like, who's responsible for that?
yeah.
If they're paid off, there's just a lot of, they haven't been around long enough for them to start failing or go bad, or well, I guess we'll know in another 30
30
years or
30 to 20 to 30 years or something like that.
right, right. So
Cool.
yeah. All right, so my hot take is not worth it. Most homeowners live in their homes for 5 to 7 years. If you don't see the benefit for 5 to 8 years, you'll probably sell your house before you ever really see the benefit of having solar panels.
Hmm.
Buyers see a liability. And this is, you just said what I put on this slide, and I was going to ask you to share your experience with it. Lenders have to factor the cost of the lease into the equation, because if they're going to assume the lease or the lease is being transferred, when you review the buyer's credit, it's one more debt on their, on their finances.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then lastly, and just so this kid that was selling said, hey, it adds value to your house. And I said, well, I'm a real estate agent. I haven't really seen that to be the case. And he just like stopped. I said, I've had conversations with a number of appraisers, and that's the last item on here. Appraisers do not currently give any additional value to homes with solar panels. So, I told him I told that kid,
Yeah.
I've seen it be more of a liability and a headache to deal with.
Sure.
Now, the one thing I would suggest, if you're watching and you have solar panels and you're going to be selling at some point, I would suggest have your agent write in. You guys have a conversation, write into the description on your listing that the solar panels will be paid off at closing. That's your best scenario to really have it go off without a hitch, is to, hey, we're paying off the lease once we get our proceeds, because they've got equity. The seller should have equity in the house. unfortunately, you gotta, instead of putting that in your pocket, you're going to use some of it to pay off the lease for the solar panels to not make it an
Yikes.
issue. So
Yeah. So can I ask you this? We don't get that much sun here in Seattle. So I don't see a ton of solar panels here, but like I see some houses with solar panels. And I deal with them a lot more in California, obviously. It's way more common in California. Um you probably don't know this question, but like I wonder how much sun do you actually have to see like the benefit? Like you're saying like you don't see the financial benefit for like 5 to 8 years or whatever, but I got to assume like somewhere here in Seattle that we don't get that much sun anyway. It might be like longer,
could
right?
be, yeah, could be,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
There's a lot of factors, and that was one of the things they suggested. If you're considering, in that Forbes article, they said if you're
Mhm.
considering getting solar panels, check to see how much sun you have. How much exposure do you have? You might have trees around your house.
Yeah.
You might have to have an additional expense to trim trees and limbs
Yeah.
so that you can get the best coverage.
Yeah.
Um,
We have a lot of pollen here too. So like when you said pollen, I was like, yeah, there's no way.
well,
I
who's
hate
going to
clean.
clean? I'm not getting up there to clean them.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing.
I
So,
I get annoyed enough having to power wash the sons of bitches. So
right. Off your car
right.
or
So
what? Yeah. Or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get tons of pollen too. So
Okay.
I could see that being a problem. We just had a bad storm blow through. What if a limb, small enough not to damage your house, but
But big enough
all
to crack open one of the panels, right?
sure.
Wifey's
Yeah,
home.
yeah. Hey
Wifey Spina's
wifey.
home.
Hey
Everyone says hi.
wifey.
Everyone says hi.
Um so yeah, there's just a lot of, I think your money's probably better spent there. And I get the idea that, well, we're a um uh yeah. Um, we're proponents of the environment. We want to help the environment.
Yeah.
So that's why we want to get solar panels. And I would say, if there's a lot of actions you can take, that don't involve you getting solar panels or buying,
Mhm.
an electric car right out of the gate because you want to protect the environment.
Yeah.
Perhaps we could cut back on Amazon deliveries.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's a lot of
Not
things.
this house.
Oh, I mean, I don't either, but I'm like, yeah, I don't even bundle. I want to get it as fast as I can.
Me too. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
more trucks, the better, but it's like,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
but but yeah, I mean, there's other things, there's other steps you can take. I mean, recycle, or there's a lot of things you can do to benefit the environment that don't involve you spending $16,000 on solar panels.
Yeah.
So I think the money's just better spent elsewhere, and you don't know the headaches until you go to sell and there's a problem, or hey, we did a solar panel inspection and there's some problems, that need to be repaired by a contractor. There's just a lot of things that can go wrong. So I don't now could the technology get to a point where, oh, this is a great benefit, this is a great idea? Sure. And I would expect that it would eventually, technology would get to the point where it does make sense, it is a benefit. But
Mhm.
I just don't think the savings in your electric bill at this time really warrants that upfront cost, especially when you just don't see the benefit for so long.
Yeah. The fact that you had to pay the cost to install them, and then the lease thing always bugged me.
Yeah.
Like, why couldn't you just buy them outright or take a loan out? And actually, to add on top of that, I have had clients take out a HELOC to pay off their solar panel, like, cost, and it was pretty high. It was like the price of a brand new car, like 30 to 40K.
Hmm.
And they just didn't want to have the lead. They just wanted it peace of mind kind of thing. And it's kind of responsible homeowner. They've been there for 2 years, like got enough equity, kind of did the math in their head, and they were like, yeah, I'm paying like 12% on the solar panel lease. I'd rather not have the connection to XYZ solar company and just pay for it outright, that kind of thing. So,
And I wonder if
um,
those companies, I mean, as they get more competitive, I wonder if you could buy out the lease at a reduced rate or something, maybe. Maybe you
perhaps,
could negotiate hey, I'm gonna pay this all, outright. I'm gonna own these outright.
yeah,
Um, so and I'm gonna pay it off. Could we what kind of can we work out a little deal if I'm gonna go ahead and
right,
pay you now? Or they may see a bit, hey, I can't, I don't get the benefit of financing them. So there is no cash, cash is king scenario
right.
with those.
I don't know what the benefit would be for the solar companies to have more leases or to just have them paid outright. I would assume they probably make a lot more money on the installation
That's
than,
true. Yeah.
so, um,
Yeah, Michael, it's I don't know if it's a scam per se, but I just don't know, laying this stuff out. I just don't know that it's the benefit is there right now. So hey, we got a little graphic there. Look at that. Little animation.
yeah.
So I saw this and I thought it was interesting. Dave Ramsey's he was actually in real estate,
Hmm.
and he was using, like a lot of investors do, he was investing in properties and building his rental empire, and it was using the equity in one to buy the next one and just rolling it over. And then the market tanked, and
Hmm.
all of these loans came up to, like, hey, we need it paid off. And of course he didn't have the money to do that, so he went broke. And he's kind of built up this finance empire. And I just thought this was interesting as far as like a mindset,
Hmm.
because we're talking about making money, saving money. A lot of the topics that we go over on Wednesdays are to benefit you financially. So you must walk to the beat of a different drummer, the same beat that the wealthy hear. If the beat sounds normal, evacuate the dance floor immediately. The goal is not to be normal, because normal is broke. So basically, change. It takes some discomfort to change. Yeah, man, it's really cool. It takes some discomfort to change your situation. It takes making some sacrifices.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so yeah. Um, yeah, that's it. So I thought that was fun. That was a good topic.
Yeah, that was like you, I try not to read your slides prior, and I was pleasantly surprised, just because I really was curious of your take on the real estate side. And you know, um it's funny that both industries had the same kind of like perception of solar. Like I don't get too worried about it because I so for my assumption is like this is what happens with solar, and it's not that big a deal, but it'd be nice to know. So I always find out about it like when title comes. And I look at title, or I forget to look at title, I don't know, whatever. And it says, you know, there's a lien from solarcitytechnologies.com. And I'm like, oh, why didn't they tell me about the solar panels? Or I looked at the purchase and sale and says, oh, you know, transfer of the solar, or the solar tiles or whatever is going to go to the new buyer and all that stuff. And so,
So why? Yeah, Soupy, that's awesome, man. That's yeah, that debt snowball, the debt snowball.
mhm, mhm.
So why is the agent not telling you, like alerting you to that up front?
I think they just, it's probably assumptions, and I don't get too frothy about it, because like you can't hide anything from a lender too, by the way. So that's the whole point of title. Okay. So like if something doesn't show in a title report, and then 3 months later you're like, where the hell does I didn't know I had solar panels I had to pay for. Why didn't it show in the title report? That if it doesn't show in title owes you 40 grand or whatever it costs. Or if we missed it, well, there's no recourse if we miss it, because we probably wouldn't miss it anyway, because it would show on title. So the buyer's always protected. That's another thing when you're buying real estate. And you in the chat may know this. Like the buyer is the most, in my opinion, is the most protected person during the sale. If the lender misses something monetary, we have to compensate them. If we don't disclose something, like for example, a VA funding fee of 2.3%, and we don't disclose it and they are charged a VA funding fee, guess what? We got to pay that 15 grand. If a solar panel lease doesn't show on title and there's actually a lease 2 months later, guess what? Title pays for that. All this stuff, right? So I think it's just always an assumption that the realtor is like, oh, they'll figure it out like later down the road.
That's
But
see that's the kind of thing I'm going to present before I put an offer in. I mean, I'm going to ask you, hey, what do I need to know? What does this affect? Is there anything I'm not thinking about that, and that's the kind of communication we've got to start having in general, to have like a really smooth transaction. And nobody likes those kind of surprises. I certainly don't. I know you don't. The buyer
yeah,
doesn't. Anything that throws a speed bump or a monkey wrench into the plan, especially the later you get into it, is
mhm.
that is no bueno.
I think like one thing that if you're shopping for prospective lender, and you're worried about the cost, I think that's good, obviously, because money talks. But I would also ask, like, how soon can my lender get initial approval? Minus the appraisal, because that always takes time. I would ask a lender that too, because if you can get 1 week versus 2 weeks, it's a huge difference. Because in the experiences I've had, I've always pitched to the to my client or the realtor, like, hey, we can get a response for initial approval within a week if you get this and that to me. Um, and usually we get that. And so the times that a solar kind of situation has come about, it's because we get title, we get income, all that stuff, like within that first couple days. So it goes pretty quickly, and then we submit it. And so I'm kind of I know it in the beginning of the transaction, even before the appraisal goes out, in my experience. Um, and so like if if I determine what's this solar panel showing up for, or what these brand new HOAs I wasn't told about. Oh, it's going to be an extra $300 a month. Okay, let me see if they still qualify, because they didn't qualify. We didn't take that into account, whatever. And 9 times out of 10, they have enough DTI to where it doesn't really hurt them. My always thing I've had with solar panels is you need to contact the finance company that's doing the lease, because you still haven't, like, I can't close this loan unless they approve you for the financing of it. And it always takes a while for the client to contact them, because I can't contact them, and to kind of give them the information. But I always say, like, if you need this or that, or I think you need this and that, here you go. Then they can kind of get it done fairly quickly. I had that on a California property in May, and that it wasn't that big of a deal, but the guy just took forever to do stuff. But he was motivated because he wanted to close on time. So that's kind of my experience with the whole solar panel thing. But yeah, 9 times out of 10, they never tell me until I just figure it out. So
Well, that's where, if the seller is willing to, they've probably been doing it in, they've probably been using solar panels a lot longer in California than they have here.
yeah,
But here we've kind of kind of got folks trained to, hey, let's just pay these things off
yeah,
and avoid the headache, because enough people are gonna, the buyers always follow the lead of the lender and the agent. So if
yeah,
I start bad mouthing solar panels, suddenly the buyer hates solar panels. I mean, they'll
yeah.
follow that lead. I could share that list that we just went over, and turn them off the solar panels in a heartbeat.
I just crack up because when I drive by and see solar panels of some of the houses here, I'm like, where where are you gonna get the energy from? It's only sunny here like 4 months, 3 or 4 months out of the year. You're wasting your money. They need it in the Philippines. That's where they need it. But
That
um,
kid went over there right after you shut him down. He went across the street and he sold those people
I probably did.
on the benefits of solar panels.
Poor kid, man. I swear, like he was a nice kid, he kind of dressed kind of cool, that kind of thing. But I was like, man, you don't you don't need to sell. Like, good for you on, like, working summer and all that stuff. But like, you need to work like in a fashion store. Like, you shouldn't be selling solar panels, man. I don't know how much he gets paid walking door to door. It reminded me of I don't know if you did this during the summer, but college paint pros was a job that you go around and you basically like knock on people's doors asking if they want a paint job on their house. And it's just college kids just painting houses. But that was like a thing. You go around, you basically, it was for people that want to learn how to start their own business and make some money too. And you had employees and all that stuff. It was kind of cool.
It's
But
interesting with all this technology that we've come full circle to go door to door salesman again.
I know.
Like it seems like in the 50s that was a thing,
Normal
selling
thing.
vacuum cleaners and whatever. Going door to door selling stuff.
Encyclopedia Britannica was the last salesperson that I think came to my parents' door, and we actually bought something from them, which is kind of funny. But yeah,
you said, "Let me show you my encyclopedia," and you held up your laptop.
I know. Yeah, right. yeah. My parents still have it here, the whole 1 through 45 set, and they go for, if you have a set, they go for like almost $1,000 for a whole set. I just don't know how you're gonna ship them. I have no idea, but that's how they go for,
like a couple of bucks at a time or something.
I guess so, man. But I was cracking up. $1,000. I'd rather keep them. It's my childhood in a way, Before Google, you looked up Encyclopedia Britannica.
Dude, you know what you should do? You should get them graded.
Just send a CGC and see if I get a 10.0 out of it.
I mean, it's worth a shot.
They're in pretty damn good condition, but I bet you, like, the paper's so thin, and I bet you we highlighted through those sons of bitches, like, because I remember like just reading, like looking up stuff, Anyway, I'm gonna go off for another half hour and not talk about financial stuff, but anyway.
Well, we'll try to do some cool topics like that in the future, and I think the break it came at a good time for me as well, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, thanks for your hard work and holding it down while I was gone, and we got 7 live, almost 8 this time. So I hope the people that watch us, I would say out of all the shows I do, this is like probably the one I'm most passionate about, because I've always been into finance, even like while I was playing video games and reading comics. And I'm passionate about it because people have always asked me questions about finance, and this is an opportunity for me to just put out my knowledge, whether it's right or wrong or close to. And I'm sure you get the same enjoyment out of it as well. So I really do. It was really satisfying to come back and do the show today. And I look forward to doing AI next week. I'm gonna have to dive into that one. That's gonna be a tough one for me, in a good way. But it's a challenge I'm willing to accept. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Take care.